Hello, this is astrologer coach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming new moon in 12.5 degrees of Scorpio, which will be exact on November 4th, 5:15 p.m. Eastern Time in the US and North America, and 9:15 p.m. UK time. So the new moon is always the beginning of a new moon cycle, a 28-day cycle. And with this new moon in passionate all or nothing Scorpio, it brings our focus to our intimate relationships and deepest emotional desires and fears for the next 28 days. Now, the best time for setting new moon intentions, we will talk about that towards the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. And also, I do have timestamps below this video, so feel free to take advantage of those timestamps if you want to watch the video in sequences or jump back and forth between certain aspects of the new moon chart. All right, now this new moon is also the start of eclipse season, which happens twice a year. And this one will last until January 2nd, 2022, so nice and long. My next full moon video will already be about the lunar eclipse in Taurus, which will be the first of 2 eclipses taking place within the next 4.5 weeks. Now, eclipses are times of uncertainty. They are Uranian in nature, so anything really could happen between now and January 2nd. But it is important to remember that eclipses open a door to the next level of our soul's evolution. So to really trust that process is very important. So as best as you can, stay grounded, stay flexible. Don't jump the gun for the next 8.5 weeks. If you feel compelled to take action on something or do something, do your best to just observe that urge, right? That feeling in your belly or that anxiety in your mind. Feel free to just observe that. The only exception would be if something happens organically. If you are ambivalent about a possible action that you want to take, if it just feels more like a wanting to take it because you feel anxious, you want to hold off until eclipse season ends on January 2nd. So just take a deep breath. Eclipses do bring major endings and beginnings, especially if they align with personal planets in our own charts. So as best as you can, trust that whatever is leaving is making space for something better. The more willing we are to change, the easier it will be. So that said, projects and interactions that got underway prior to eclipse season, before November 4th, that's another matter. So don't stop your life just because we're in eclipse season. Now, I will also talk about the upcoming 2 eclipses in more detail in my next forecasting forum. So if you want to know how these powerful lunations are going to impact you personally, feel free to join us. We will apply what's coming up to our own birth charts. The forum is on November 19th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, New York time. And that is the day of the lunar eclipse when we'll have that. I was very brave when I scheduled that. So that will be on the day of the eclipse. So hopefully we'll have a fantastic time. And if you have more questions or you want more information, then feel free to click on the link below this video. Or you can also go to my homepage at astrologercoach.com. Now, also, if you're watching this after November 19th or you're not able to join us on the 19th, the MP4 video presentation is available for purchase after November 19th on my webinar page. And there will also be a link to that below this video. But if you register now, the registration will include a recording of the live event, so you don't have to join live. And it also includes access to the next members lunar eclipse video. So if you're not currently a member of my online community, then you will also get access to that eclipse video. Now, there is an early bird special that will be available until November 16th at midnight Eastern Time. So take advantage of that if you're only joining for this month. And again, the link is below this video, so you can register right now. Unless you're already a star member, in that case, you're automatically registered. You don't need to do anything. All right, now a couple of things to note with this new moon chart. We have an exact opposition to Uranus in Taurus. Totally exact, both in 12 degrees. And Uranus is associated with breakdowns, breakthroughs, sudden change, freedom, and innovation. So that's something to consider. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. We also have a T-square with Saturn in Aquarius as the focus point. Venus in Sagittarius will be in an exalted degree at the time of the new moon. And Mercury, which is the ruler of our current North Node, because the North Node is in Gemini right now, is yet again highly aspected by many of the other planets in this new moon chart, including Pluto, which rules Scorpio. So more about all of that in a moment, but let's first talk about the Scorpio energies so we can get a sense for what this new moon or these next 28 days are about. Now, Scorpio is the second water sign of the zodiac, so it relates not only to the depth of our own psyche, but also to the ecstasies and traumas of our relationships. Remember, Scorpio, all or nothing, right? It's like super, super high or super, super low in energy. Now, Scorpio is also the sign most associated with the dark, the taboo, the subconscious, the unknown. And of course, as human beings, we don't love the unknown. We get scared of the unknown. So there is where the fears come in with Scorpio. And I would also say it is no coincidence that we celebrate Halloween on October 31st in the US when the sun moves through Scorpio. That's the time when we're trying to connect to that Scorpio energy through the celebration of Halloween and celebrating our shadows and our darkness. Now, our shadow holds not only our fears, unresolved traumas, and less desirable qualities, but anything that has been suppressed, anything that has been repressed. Now, that includes power, intuition, and any other gift as well that we might not be able to connect to. So ask yourself, what if a journey through the valley of darkness ultimately led to the heights of my true power? And just remember, power is not having power over other people or circumstances. Power means being whole, feeling completely powerful from within, in the sense that we feel whole and connected to ourselves. Another question you can ask is, how might surrender, trust in a higher power, and letting go of resentment and fear give me a better understanding of peace, authentic connection, and inner strength? And that is a very, very powerful question as well. Now, feel free to either journal on these questions, meditate with them, just pose the question. You can brainstorm with other people about them. But also, I would say, remember that these questions are not about finding the answers. It's more about allowing the answer to come to you, allowing this to be an intuitive process, sort of like allowing yourself to be in alignment with the current energies. And you probably want to engage with these questions after the new moon has become exact, so after November 4th. Now, Scorpio is associated with 3 images. There is the scorpion, the eagle, and the dove. Now, the scorpion, which of course is how we think about Scorpio, a Scorpio represents a solitary creature, symbolizing self-protection and instinctive desire. So something that comes from a sort of like animalistic place, instinctive desire. Now, the eagle represents sort of like more of a wider awareness, archetypically, and more conscious control over our own desires. And the dove, which is the third image of the 3, sort of represents the transcendence of personal desire and bringing peace and healing to other people. But of course, all 3 images sort of like have to do with the process of Scorpio. They're all connected in some sense. So ask yourself, what am I gifted when I face my deepest fears? And what if going deeper towards what scares me the most never led to an actual death of any kind, but always and only led to transformation and to sort of like going into a higher vibration? Now, like I already mentioned briefly before, Scorpio also deals with our shadow issues. Again, the shadow is all the suppressed, denied, or undeveloped qualities of our personality. And unprocessed shadow material pushes our buttons. It makes us it makes us boil a little bit. And it makes us vulnerable also to control and manipulation. So it's either that we want to control and manipulate, or that we become more open to being controlled and manipulated. So it's very important that we take a look at unprocessed shadow material. Now, suppression and denial, projection and blame usually keeps us stuck. It keeps us sort of like in a holding pattern. And conscious awareness shows us the way out, usually out of this stuckness. So when we really have the ability to take a look at these suppressed places and the places that we deny about ourselves, when we can start to integrate those places, whether that's through therapy or coaching, or just doing the work on our own with certain modalities, healing can really take place when we do that. Healing can happen when we bring light to the dark, when we become conscious of what has been stored in our unconscious. So in the basement of our psyche, so to speak. Now, ask yourself, what benefits might I reap if I were to transmute my shadow issues? What would be the benefit of that? And also noticing our own desires and fears or sense of humor is important, because the shadow also makes itself visible through all of that, right? So if you have a deep desire of some kind, or certain fears that seem kind of irrational, you could be dreaming about things that scare you. That could be a sort of like a key to what your shadow is all about. And also humor. Often we laugh about things that are, especially things that are just a little bit uncomfortable. Those are the things very often that are connected to a shadow part of ourselves. And so what shadow issues need to be addressed over the next 4 weeks? So take a look at that. We have some questions here that might help you with connecting to some of the shadow stuff. Who really bothers me out there in the world? And who do I love to hate? And what specifically bothers me about them? And just remember, whenever there's something out there in the world that we have an issue with, it's very often some type of shadow that we have suppressed inside of ourselves. And often the volume setting that we experience in the outer world is very loud in order for us to pay attention to that. So we want to kind of see, like, what would that look like if we took whatever bothers us, whatever we love to hate, and we just turned down the volume setting just a little bit or a lot, but we don't turn it down all the way. So we just find the happy medium there. What would that look like? And could we then reintegrate that energy inside of us? Then another way to look at shadow material is who do I admire and why? Because it goes the other way too, right? People that we really admire, that we put on a pedestal, those are usually also shadow placements that we have suppressed somehow inside of ourselves. So who do I admire and why? Then what scares me most about myself? If you think about the things qualities about yourself that really scare you, where you feel like, I cannot tell anybody about that because that is just too horrific. What scares me most about myself? That could be a shadow thing. And what reoccurring, uncomfortable, or scary dream or daydream do I have? So if you have anything that keeps coming up, because remember, dreaming is sort of like our mind tapping into the unconscious. So through dreams, we can actually bring unconscious stuff to the surface. We can bring it to the surface and work through it. So what reoccurring, uncomfortable, or scary dream or daydream do I have? And just, again, feel free to like journal on that or meditate on that. Or just pay attention, after a good night's sleep to see what did something come up that could be a shadow, a processing of a shadow component of yourself. And what do I love to joke about that feels just a little bit edgy? So what do you love to joke about that feels edgy? Because that might be something in connection to a shadow part for yourself. Now, if you're not yet a member of my online community and would like to have access to all the new moon questions from this video in writing, there's going to be a lot more to come. And also the full moon videos every month. Feel free to check out the various levels of membership that are available on my website at astrologercoach.com, and feel free to join us. Now, if you're already a member, check your membership portal by signing into your account. You will find all my posts in the My Content tab. And the new moon questions are available via the new moon in Scorpio article by November 1st, I would say at the very latest, probably even before then already. So please keep in mind that it is best to start working with the coaching questions after the new moon has already become exact, not before. And let's talk about some of the planetary aspects in this new moon chart. Let's see what makes this new moon in Scorpio uniquely what it is for this month. Now, the new moon opposes Uranus in Taurus. Again, Uranus is the planet associated with breakdowns, breakthroughs, sudden change, freedom, and innovation. So we might experience some sudden and unexpected turns over the next 4 weeks. And not only because of this new moon, but also because we're also entering eclipse season, right? Remember that your eclipse season is also Uranus in nature. So there might be some unexpected turns. We are invited to examine our relationship to money, to power, and resources, personal resources or shared resources with other people. And you can ask yourself, how can I balance my need for a deeper, more empowered experience with others against my wish to honor my personal values and desire for freedom? And we might also feel nervous or anxious as we become aware of what's not working for us anymore, whether that's financially, physically, or emotionally. And there's this itch to move forward and have progress, right? Uranus also has a lot to do with progress, wanting progress. So this itch to have progress and realize a new vision for ourselves, that feels very strong, to have this sort of like momentum, this forward momentum. Now, it may well be true that something needs to change, but we also want to make sure that we're not rushing into anything. With Uranus, there can be, because of the anxiety that we might feel, there can be sometimes a little bit of like taking it a little bit too erratically. So ask yourself, how is my life being interrupted by divine interventions? And we call them divine interventions. So if there's anything happening in your life in the next 4 weeks that feels almost like this big surprise, or it could be a shock, or it could be something where you're like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. Think of it as divine intervention. And what insights might those interventions hold for me? What needs more space? How might thinking outside the box support my connection with others? And what needs a new approach in my interactions? How might staying flexible when it comes to my intimate relationships or financial partnerships benefit me? So we want to just remember with Uranus, we do want to stay open. We want to give it space. We want to stay flexible. And then one last question that I think is really powerful here as well with this aspect and for the next 4 weeks after November 4th. How might staying calm in this uncertain climate support my sanity? And how do we stay calm? I mean, that's something also that we might want to journal on. How can we stay calm when we feel there's so much shifting and so much uncertainty? Now, the new moon also makes a wide square to Saturn in Aquarius, making Saturn the focus point of a T-square. all this creates some tension. Whenever there's a T-square, we do experience tension, but also an invitation both to innovate and to clarify our priorities. So we may become anxious or stressed over a situation or interaction involving a group of people, community, or a network of people out there in the world. And we may feel more cautious when it comes to relationships and our resources. And it definitely signifies a maturity process because Saturn is the focus point. It's a maturity process that demands great adjustments and flexibility on our part. So we just have to kind of allow ourselves to move with that a little bit. So ask yourself, how might slowing things down and taking it one step at a time be beneficial for me right now? And how might a mature approach with healthy boundaries support my dealings with others? And if I were able to find creative solutions to my current frustrations, what might those be? And what if I could express what's in my heart whilst remaining adult? So these are all really good questions to work with over the next 4 weeks. And the new moon also makes a white trine to Neptune in Pisces. And this is a harmonious aspect, and that makes it easier for us to trust and flow with energy currents rather than struggle against them. And it also makes it easier to release past trauma or emotional attachments that no longer serve us. So basically, things that keep us in a lower vibrational place, we're able to more easily release and let go and trust the process. So ask yourself, what traumas from the past are asking to be released? What if I took a closer look at some old resentments, fears, and misperceptions? And if I gave those difficult experiences my conscious awareness, my love, and spoke the truth about them, might this dispel any remaining darkness around them? Often talking about the things that we are scared about, that we fear, that we want to reject, talking about that can be extremely freeing and can really kind of bring it more into our conscious awareness so we can start to transform and have a better relationship with those parts of ourselves. So anything that you're suppressing or repressing is usually not a good idea. It doesn't support your own well-being. It doesn't support your highest self. Now, what am I afraid of would happen if I let go of needing to be in control? Sometimes we want to stay in control because we feel more safe that way. And what am I afraid of happening if I completely surrendered to life, to love? Sometimes it's hard to see that life is actually unfolding exactly as it needs to. Sometimes we fight that. Sometimes we resist that. But just as an experiment, what if you could just surrender to life? Even if it was just for 5 minutes or for an hour or for one day. And what if you could surrender to love? And if out of control was simply a matter of perspective, would I still resist it? So this sense of out of control, often we think we are out of control, but what if that was just a thought? What if it wasn't actually true? Would we still resist it? And would I dare to embrace it if it was just a thought or just a perspective? And could I trust just for right now that there is always a bigger plan at play? And what if I simply asked my higher self to support me in letting things unfold for the highest good of everyone involved, rather than assuming that I know what that highest good might be? That can be very powerful, just literally giving it over to a higher power where we say, you know what, for the highest good of everybody involved, that's all I care about. And I don't care what it looks like. That's what I want for the highest good of everyone involved. And once we give that over and we let that go, it's incredible what can unfold. It's incredible what actually can happen. Now, Mars, the traditional ruler of Scorpio, represents our willpower and passion. So Scorpio is definitely a very passionate sign. Mars is in an early degree of Scorpio and makes a close alignment with Mercury, which is in a very late degree of Libra. And so this combo might speed up our thinking. We communicate with curiosity, enthusiasm, and energy, especially on the subjects of justice, reform, relationships, our desire for anything connected to a deeper, more authentic connection with ourselves or with other people. And we seek the very, very heart of a subject. We're going to want to go straight to it, like boom, Mars. It's very direct. So something to be aware of is we may take things a little bit too personally. And this approach could make it challenging for others to engage in a healthy dialogue with us. So we want to be aware of that. And remember, with awareness, you don't need to change it. You just need to be aware of it and be self-compassionate about it. Be compassionate with yourself. Now ask yourself, could I observe and discern rather than judge others for the time being? Could I observe and discern rather than judge for the time being? And am I seeing all of the facts? Am I, with these questions, it's very important to be really honest with ourselves, not to answer impulsively, but to really keep that as an open question. Am I seeing all the facts? And just keep that as an open question for the next 4 weeks. And just let yourself be surprised what the answers might be. Might a deep breath into my lower belly help soothe and clear my mind? And what if I experimented with taking that deep breath whenever I feel impatient or I feel a sense of urgency? Because remember, Mars is very much about, let's go. It's a little impatient. And there's this sense of urgency to it sometimes. And when Mars connects with Mercury, which has to do with our thinking, then of course that will sort of we will think it. We will think, let's go. So what if I experimented with taking a deep breath whenever I feel impatient or feel a sense of urgency? Just, let it be, let it flow. Now, Mercury and Mars will journey closely together until November 16th and will also be involved in a powerful T-square between November 8th and 16th. The T-square I'm referring to involves Mars, Saturn, and Uranus, and, also Mercury at first. But the T-square between Mars, Saturn, and Uranus will be strong until November 21st. So this T-square asks us to focus on our ability to be self-expressed in a mature and timely manner. It asks us to focus on our heart center and what brings us joy. And, asking periodically, what am I grateful for right here, right now? That could be really, really helpful over the next 4 weeks after the new moon becomes exact. And it could really also save us from depression, from anxiety, or feeling like we don't belong. So just keep remembering this question. What am I grateful for right here, right now? Especially if you start to feel a little bit heavy-hearted or something starts to feel a little bit restricted or limited in some way. What am I grateful for right here, right now? And then feel free to also check out my video presentation about the powerful T-square we're all experiencing in November, to see how all of this is impacting you personally. We did record a webinar on that subject, and feel free to click on the link below this video to take a look at that. It's called Powerful T-Square, Saturn Squares Mars and Uranus, November 2021. And feel free to add that to your cart. Now, star members, check your email for the link to the MP4 recording. It's been sent out to you, I think a week or two ago already, and enjoy watching it. Now, last but not least, let's talk about Mercury in Libra. So much going on with Mercury in Libra. Mercury is making a close square to Pluto, which is the ruler of Scorpio, the modern ruler of Scorpio. Mercury is trining Jupiter and sextiling an exalted Venus. So let's unpack all of that. So let's start with Mercury square to Pluto. Due to Mercury's retrograde in October, we have experienced this square already several times in the past 7 weeks. Now, Mercury represents our ability to connect and communicate, as well as learn and process information. And this aspect really challenges us to find meaning in our life through processing truthful information. So we have to uncover the deeper layer of life, so to speak. We have to really dig deeper to see what is actually going on. And we're invited to redefine our relationship to truth, redefine our relationship to responsibility, redefine our relationship to power. Now, the gift of misinformation is that it forces us to trust our own inner guidance. Now, you can ask yourself here is, how can I empower myself and others 5% more today? With what you're sharing, with what you're saying, with how you're listening to other people. How can you empower yourself and others 5% more today? And how might an increase of self-care support the desire for empowered conversations and connections? You know, self-care is something that is very highly underrated in most cultures, especially in the Western world. And it is very, very important these days for us to really focus on self-care. So how might an increase of self-care support the desire for empowered conversations and connections? What needs to be said? What doesn't? And the blessing of abuse of power is that it ultimately teaches us to act humanely. You know, we by seeing that other people abuse power, our heart opens up a little bit, and our heart kind of goes, this is not okay. You know, we need to do something differently here. We need to do something more humane here. So we're learning that we're not victims, but that we always have a choice as to how we respond, and that we declare our own humanity every day with the choices that we make. So with Pluto in the mix, in this aspect, interactions could be a little bit intense. So as best as you can, really empower rather than disempower. And it's time to let go of destructive thought forms or attachments that we have. So ask yourself, how can I grow and evolve in my communications? How might a deeper sense of listening to myself or others support me on that journey? And is there a conversation, whether that's an inner conversation or conversation with someone out there, that I need to outgrow, that I need to evolve out of? As best as you can, stay grounded in love, not fear. It's always good advice, right? Stay flexible and open-minded, and of course, nurture yourself. Nurture yourself. This is really key, people. Nurture yourself. Make sure you have everything you need to be able to come from a place of inner strength and empowerment. And that comes from nurturing ourselves. The more we can really be kind and caring with ourselves, the more we can pamper ourselves, the more we can give ourselves a break. That all is nurturing, including physical nurturing, right? Healthy foods, enough rest, making sure that we have plenty of water, that we take care of our emotional body, our physical body, our mental, spiritual body. All of that is connected to nurturing yourself. So ask yourself, if I observe an all or nothing attitude in myself, could I give myself permission to relax into the love energy that always resides inside of me? Because remember, all or nothing, that attitude comes from a place of fear to some degree. So the opposite of fear is love. The love and fear cannot be in the same space at the same time. So if I observe an all or nothing attitude in myself, could I give myself permission to relax into the love energy that always resides inside of me? And could I first acknowledge and then release any fears or concerns connected to achievements or to relationships? So with fear, we always want to acknowledge it first. We want to name it, right? It's very important to name our fears. Say what it is. And then once you've honored, yourself by naming it, then you can let it go. Then you can say, okay, can I let it go now? And the other thing that Mercury is doing in this new moon chart is Mercury also trines Jupiter in Aquarius. And that, of course, is a harmonious aspect that strengthens our ability to connect and collaborate with others. So we are more tolerant of other people's perspectives and ideas. Naturally, we avoid narrow-minded thinking, and we feel at ease reconnecting with people from all walks of life. So that can be very supportive to us right now. So ask yourself, what are my expectations or attitudes towards the collective experience, towards the other, or what's out there? And what new vantage points might show me how to reinvent myself and my vision for my people or my tribe? So the last thing I want to talk about is Mercury making a sextile to an exalted Venus in Sagittarius. Now, Venus is in an exalted degree because she is in the last degree of Sagittarius at the time of the new moon. And a planet in the last degree of a sign feels louder because it's trying to express as much as it can of the current sign before it moves on into the next sign. So it's sort of like the last hurrah before moving on. And in this case, Venus will move into Capricorn, where she will journey an extra long time until early March of 2022 because of her retrograde phase that happens in December and January. This exalted degree also indicates sort of like a strong urge to complete something. So most likely it's something that started on or after October 7th when Venus started her journey through Sagittarius. And Venus represents our relationships, the one that we have to others and the one that we have to ourselves. And also it represents what we value the most, what's most important to us. Now, in Sagittarius, we most value adventure, looking for a larger meaning, getting a new perspective on life, getting away from our routines and exploring new relationships. And there might be an impatience in the air around our interactions with other people. So the sextile between Mercury and Venus gives us the opportunity for more enthusiastic and enhanced communication, as well as making new social contacts, especially with people who share our philosophies about life. So ask yourself, who comes to mind when I think of people who share my philosophy? And how might we be able to support each other? And what needs to be said? Where do I need to give others the gift of listening? What is the larger picture? And how might speaking my truth support someone else in processing something new or different? So these are some really wonderful questions. Again, feel free to journal on them, meditate on them, pose the questions, brainstorm on them. But take your time, allow it to be an intuitive process. Now, to sum it all up for this new moon, being open to trusting the process and going with the flow are key. Most of our lives are shaped by fears. Too much of something, not enough of something else, not being loved, not being liked, being judged, rejected, some form of loss, maybe even physical death that we're experienced through someone else, being the recipient of physical or emotional pain, etc., etc. These are all connected to the fears that we all inhabit as human beings. Now, Scorpio's territory is not easy because it is about facing our deepest feelings and fears and confronting our demons, and also our connection to death, which can be very difficult to work through. But the reward that it brings to actually let ourselves dive into these places is inner peace and freedom and wholeness in particular. And so that makes it all worth it, because once you feel whole, nothing can ever put you off kilter anymore. Nothing can ever take anything away from you, because when there's wholeness, there's tremendous inner strength. Now, this new moon in Scorpio definitely invites us to let go of whatever is dead or toxic. Often this is connected to past disempowerment, fears based on either what was or on a possible future in which we would not be okay. And all this can be scary and stir up the desire for control or to protect ourselves. But we have to remember the survival brain thinks that control brings power, certainty, and stability. But it's all an illusion based on fear. This is not true. Like, being in control does not bring us more power. It does not bring us more certainty. It certainly does not bring us more stability. It is actually the opposite, is when we actually release or relinquish our control, when we surrender, when we stay open-hearted. That is when we feel the most stable, when we feel the most able to deal with life. So remember, fear is a resistance to life, whereas love is an acceptance of all life in all its forms. The good, the bad, and the ugly, no matter what. So ask yourself, as best as I can, could I acknowledge any self-resistance? So resistance you have towards yourself, in other words, right? Because let's face it, we're all born without resistance. However, as we go through life, we accumulate things that we don't like about ourselves. We tend to pick on ourselves or judge ourselves. So as best as you can, could I acknowledge any self-resistance, resistance towards others or towards life itself? And just for right now, could I simply let go of wanting to resist what is? Could I let go of wanting to resist myself? Could I set all inner tension free, just as best as I can, just for right now, and just as an experiment in freedom? These are really fantastic questions. I would really want to encourage you to use some of these over the next 4 weeks. Now, the key is to realize that letting go is not about loss. It's not about losing something when we're letting it go. It's about transformation, and ultimately about feeling empowered, since every ending is also a new beginning. When we're letting go of something, something new can show up that can be brighter, better, more beautiful. So it is about empowerment. So trust also plays a really big part here, because we have to trust that when we're letting go, that something new can emerge that is more beautiful for ourselves and more empowering. So trust also plays a big part here. And so that's also true in all of our intimate relationships, in our authentic connections with other people. And trust, whether it's into ourselves or in other people, is something that develops over time. It's not just something we have. We have to kind of make space for it and accumulate the trust. And for those of us who have experienced traumatic events or circumstances in childhood or over a lifetime, this process can take a little bit longer. Sometimes there can be a step forward or a step backwards with trust. Sometimes we're trusting and then something happens and then we kind of move a step backwards because we're like, oh, that didn't work. And then we don't trust again. But again, we need to learn how to keep allowing trust to enter our lives, because without it, it can be a very painful experience, and we tend to suffer more without it. So as best as you can, be patient and kind with yourself if you are in that category where you've experienced traumatic events or circumstances in the past. And therefore it's taking a little bit longer for you to trust yourself or other people. So ask yourself, what if true intimacy with another is only possible when I allow for the full range of emotions? What if my capacity for love and joy grew directly in relation to my ability to embrace my fears and pain? These are really, really great questions. And again, flexibility and open-mindedness will definitely help for the next 28 days. Embracing our humanity and practicing self-compassion, especially around our inner processes and limitations. We all have them, right? We all have something going on. Just sometimes we don't want to acknowledge it. Sometimes we don't want to be with that. So having self-compassion around our inner processes and limitations provides really a huge opportunity for healing. So I really want to encourage that for all of you. Now, if you have an ascendant or any personal planets in 10 to 15 degrees of Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, or Aquarius, then you will definitely feel the impact of this new moon more strongly than other people. But I would also say take a look at your natal chart and just see where does 12.5 degrees of Scorpio land in your birth chart, because that house placement will indicate which area of life will be most ready for a new beginning for the next 28 days and where you need to transform something in the next 28 days. You can also check out my 30-minute class on how to read your birth chart. You can get free access via my homepage at astrologercoach.com. Just scroll down to the place where it says free class. And then another thing that's also available for free right now is my class on soul-based astrology, what that's all about. So feel free to take a look at that as well if you're already at my website. You can also watch it on YouTube as well. What is soul-based astrology all about? And then the new moon, of course, is also the best time to set some powerful intentions for this month's moon cycle. So intentions are best done soon after the new moon becomes exact, not before. And definitely not during a moon void of course phase. Moon void of course phases do not lend themselves very well to setting intentions. So this month, the best and most potent time to set intentions would be any time between 5:15 p.m. on November 4th and 12:10 p.m. on November 5th. And then again from 8:52 p.m. on November 5th until 5:15 p.m. on November 6th. Now, all of that is in New York time, US Eastern time. And please keep in mind that Europe and the UK no longer have daylight savings time. So therefore, the time difference is an hour less than usual at the time of the new moon. So just for that 1 week between the US and Europe and the UK, there's going to be a different time difference than usual. Now, if you live in a different time zone other than Eastern Daylight Savings Time, feel free to join my Facebook fan page or follow me on Twitter. I will be posting reminders on November 4th, on November 5th, and on November 6th to let you know when it is the most potent time to set your intentions. And if you want more information about setting intentions, click on the link below this video. There will be a link that will get you to my website where I have an article about that. And feel free to also sign up for my monthly newsletter if that sounds something you would like to receive. You can do that via my homepage at astrologercoach.com, or you can also email me at info@astrologercoach.com and just write newsletter in the subject line. I usually send out a newsletter once or twice a month with special offers, with videos, with announcements, and so on. So feel free to sign up for that. And if you have any general questions about the new moon, about astrology, about eclipses, feel free to email me at info@astrologercoach.com. Any personal questions that require that I take a look at your birth chart, please book a reading at astrologercoach.com, or any questions connected to what's coming up within the next 30 to 40 days, join the next monthly forecasting forum on November 19th. Or sign up for the monthly forecasting forum and ask a question in advance. You can always ask questions that I will be answering during the forum. And again, you have until November 16th at midnight Eastern time to sign up for the forum with the early bird special. So take advantage of that if you want to join. And again, please note that we will take a look at the upcoming eclipses, the two powerful lunations that will be exact on November 19th and December 4th. in relationship to our own birth charts to see how this is impacting each of us personally. All right. Now, my members will see me in 2 weeks around the time of the lunar eclipse, a little bit before. So we can look at how far we've come since setting our new moon intentions. And everyone else in 4 weeks for the next new moon, which will also be a solar eclipse in Sagittarius. So thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic new moon. Remember, it's an introverted time where we go within. So get ready for the next 4 weeks and also for eclipse season. Stay wholehearted, focus on well-being and your inner peace. And if you need support in any way, of course, feel free to reach out. And have a good one. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.